Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Lakeville Planning Board to order. It is Thursday, June 8th at 7 p.m. We are meeting in the Lakeville Police Station meeting room. First item on our agenda is a public hearing for 44 Clear Pond Road, which is a continuation of a previous hearing. And the applicant has requested a continuance to our next meeting. So I'd like to make a motion to continue till June 22nd at 7 p.m.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is a public hearing for Stowe Estates, 35 Myrick Street. This is a continued public hearing for a definitive subdivision plan. And at this time, I'd like to turn the floor over to...
Good evening, Jamie Bissonette, Zenith Consulting Engineers for the record. A few weeks ago, I believe it was maybe a month ago, we met with the planning board and did our initial presentation. At that time, we had not received peer review comments back yet. Since then we have, and we've sent out a revised set of plans on, I believe it was June 5th is the dated letter, response letter from us. So to my understanding, we have not heard back from environmental partners with our response, but we did address every one of their comments. The majority of the comments, when we looked at them, didn't seem to be anything really difficult to address. Things like, please show 2 benchmarks on the additional sheets besides just the existing conditions.
So monument detail.
Monument detail, exactly. A lot of it didn't have a lot of weight to it, but I did want to talk about one in particular item, just to make sure that there's some clarification for us if we can. And I'm happy to go over every item if you'd like. Or any particular ones that the board has, but there was one in particular regarding the drainage in the town, dealing with rate and volume. And just wanted to talk about that really quickly. All right, so in the bylaw, or in the regulations, the town regulations, it references rate, and it also talks about reasonable volume, like not increasing the volume to a point in which it's detrimental is just another way of saying, me ad-libbing exactly what it says. I don't remember the exact wording. And with stormwater management, the States Act, what it does is it's telling you cannot increase the rate of flow. That way you're not worried about flooding anyone downstream out. Whenever you develop a piece of property, the volume of runoff is going to change unless you can infiltrate everything. So unless you're in really good soils, you have massive infiltration basins, the true volume is going to be increased. And most people don't understand that. But what happens is stormwater management, you're trying to control the rate, which is, we describe it as a bathtub. You turn on the bathtub, the faucet, and you have the outlet open. As long as you don't exceed what that outlet can take, then you should have no problem. But if you take a fire hose and put it into the bathtub, it's obviously gonna flood out. That's how drainage is designed. Is what we do is we try to match pre and post development, or do a reduction in the rate out. That way the water, as it's going down gradient and seeding out, it's not going to create an adverse impact on anybody. When you're dealing with volume control, the only way you can do it is either one, have a reduction in impervious soils, or two, try to infiltrate. When you're in sea soils like we are, which is difficult, I believe we had 50-minute and inch rates, infiltration really isn't a practical thing. Stormwater management actually even talks about when you're in sea soils, maximum extent practical, D soils, don't even worry about it. So what we did was we have done what we feel is to the maximum extent practical on this plan. You can see we have a large basin. It's treating everything. It's reducing the rate so that we can be sure that downstream flooding will not be made worse. In fact, if anything, it should help the downstream area. That being said, the volume control of matching up pre and post with the volume that comes out is just not attainable for us. It's, based on soil conditions, it's not practical. So, we've done it to the maximum extent practical. We meet all of the state requirements for that. But, in their letter, they ask us, pretty much to address that situation. And we just want to be very upfront with the board that that was what our response was. That we addressed it to the best that we can, and, we haven't heard back from them on that, but that was the only thing that I really saw that potentially had any bit of conflict to it. That was it.
And Kathy, I'm assuming you've been right here, heard the whole conversation, but we haven't received anything today from environmental partners. So I'm comfortable with continuing for one more meeting, and then I think that with those comments to your answers, I think we're comfortable at that point acting.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely reasonable. I mean, it's only been a couple of days that they've had the revisions. So, yeah, if we can get a continuance to the 22nd, I would appreciate that, and hopefully we have, comments by then.
I make a motion to continue the 35 Myrick Street, Stowe Estates, public hearing until, June 22nd at 7 PM.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is 156 Rhode Island Road, public hearing, which is a continuation of a previous hearing. And I have a letter from the engineer requesting one final continuance to our next meeting. So I make a motion to continue the 156 Rhode Island Road site plan review until June 22nd at 7 PM.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Second.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is discussion regarding a change to 5 Harding Street.
All right, good evening, Jamie Bissonette from Zenith Consulting Engineers for the record again. I'm here on behalf of, the applicant, Bob Palucci. Again, this is informal. A few years back, we came in front of the planning board, for site plan review. We permitted, what is shown here in blue as a building with, this being paved for parking, access out to Route 44. Just as logistics wise, this was the old landscape nursery, we call it. The drive-in movie theater was across the street. Muckies is right up the road on the same side. And driving down this way, you'd be headed towards the Rotary. The applicant or the owner is looking to change the shape of the building from that blue, L shape to the red, more rectangular shape. The sizes are within a few hundred square feet of one another. We're not looking to change the limit of work, the amount of pavement or anything else. It's just, he wants to reconfigure the building, to be able to use it, possibly, and I believe this is him that's walking in now, to be able to use it for, automotive repair type, items, which they did get a special permit at the zoning board with. And so the question that we have is, we're trying to figure out the process the planning board would be looking for us to go through to make that change. There's been, several changes to the regulations. Hey, Mark. Since we did get this approved originally, and we're wondering, if this would be something that could be considered a minor modification where we keep essentially the drainage roughly the same, the limit of work the same, the amount of asphalt the same, change up the building, change up the parking a little bit, all within that limit of work, but not have to go through, the full process of site plan review, or if the board would want us to go for full site plan review again.
Well, procedurally, I'm gonna defer to Mark on that, but I
Okay.
think that we definitely wanna see a full updated plan. We want our signatures to be on the plan that's gonna move forward.
Sure.
So procedurally, how
Yeah,
this change is gonna go.
I think procedurally, you really need to file a new site plan
Okay.
for the project. If the limits of work stay the same and the amount of impervious stay the same,
Yep.
And really, as far as environmental partners review would be just to ensure that what you design for catch basins and pipe sizing and all that stuff, because it will move around.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there'll be minimal movement, but yes.
But the amount of impervious surface will stay the same, so they won't have to necessarily re-review all the calculations. It'll be just kind of the physical structures, so it should limit the review time as well. You're not changing the access drive, you're not changing any of the other things that, so their portion of the review will be relatively small. You know, things like the landscaping plan obviously will be different, things like the lighting layout will be different. So that's why, because there's enough differences, it really should be a new site plan.
Okay.
Bob, would you like to come
Yeah,
up?
no, that's what I was just trying to find out, because like, the whole turtle
Oh,
area.
can you come up to one of the mics? Jose's giving us the knock.
Jeez.
Hi, Bob. Yeah, I just wanted to find that out because, like, I've already done all the turtle work, 160 grand, it's done, signed off from Natural Heritage, the entrance is
Wildlands
out.
Trust adopted a lot of that land too, didn't they? Or
Yeah, they took a whole bunch of it, what I can use is already bounded, I had to put real bounds in and signs, so my limit of work is bounded, it's all, the, Natural Heritage signed off from the turtle work, an acre and a half of turtle, habitat area that we already built.
You went through a lot.
Yeah, we spent a ton of money already, the trees are cut, so that's why I was just nervous because if you're gonna start all over again, like I already have mass highway approvals, we're already working on the driveway now, all that other work's already been done. So I just wanted to, like you were just saying, if it's just if I stay in the limit of work and that's fine. I just didn't, you know, if all of a sudden some review engineer was gonna take a shot at it like it was brand new.
All those wetlands and all those other approvals, I think, stay in place.
Yeah.
Because your outside footprint is the same.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way we all kind of look at it. It's just, like Mark said,
I mean, I can discuss this with Jamie a little bit more, but I mean, if we, for the purposes of your mass highway permits, your permits with Natural Heritage and everything else, if we need to call it a modification, I think that's okay, as long as, because it still allows the planning board to look at all of the elements of the site plan.
Yep.
So if we need to call it a modification for the purposes of those other permits, I think that's a reasonable thing. You know, and because the board will still have to grant a new approval and can condition it as they see fit. And it'll be, you know, meet the standards of today's site plan review, so,
Okay, so it probably makes sense for you and I to sit down with Mark and just outline exactly, you know, make sure that you're comfortable in moving forward and that Mark, that we're in agreement on the things that will need to be done.
Oh, yeah, because once, if they go forward now, because it sounds like they probably will at this point, then we'll, you know, we already have the plans and everything of what they're gonna do there and stuff, and it's, and as you can see, even the red, that gets it even farther away from the houses on Cross Street, so I didn't see anybody really having a big problem, but like I said, I already got the entrance getting done, the turtle habitat was 160 grand. So I don't want some review engineer guy telling me he wanted it changed when it's already done, you know? And like I said, all the bounds are in, it's the Wildlands Trust, Natural Heritage, everybody's all signed off on everything we've done. And so that's why, yeah, if we just stay in that ring of what was gonna be asphalt now and just change a building or do something, I totally understand the shape of the building could affect more water to run one way than the other, and he has to fix all that, but yeah, as long as, I just wanted to make sure you guys, before I went any further, that we weren't gonna be starting from scratch again. And
yeah, no, I think in our eyes, this is a good change. We're not looking at, like Mark said, the outlet road onto 44, the limit of work, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So I understand, you know, life took over and you have an opportunity with a different tenant, and within the same footprint, you can still make it work, even though the building changes.
Yeah.
All right,
And as you know, like, cost of steel's through the roof now, and, you know, it was kind of funny too that it happened, and I know I'm getting older, but I thought I was losing it, because when I permitted this, I remember, and I think you were on the board, when I first permitted, when Brian was still on and everything, and we were talking about like auto repair, and I had already talked to some like people that would be like accessories, like window tinting, glass installers, people that would, you know, service the dealerships. And all of a sudden, it's like, you know, it's like, oh no, you need a special permit. And I was like, you know, and then Mather figured out that it changed in 2020. So since I permitted this, then auto repair became by special permit. So then that's why, so I was out there marketing it to these people saying it's a great location for you guys. And all of a sudden, you know, I was like, oh, now it's a special permit, but that was at COVID meeting, so I didn't go to the COVID town meetings when they must have passed that, but, so, yeah, so we're just trying to do it, and like Mather said at the zoning board, if, you know, and he was part of the committee who wanted to make that change, mainly because in business before, you could do it by right, so people could go anywhere on Main Street, you know, and just put these places up, and it was to look at it, and, but you guys all know Bob, and he said, if this isn't a good place for it, then there's no place in Lakeville, we shouldn't even have it on our books and stuff, so. But, I mean, it fits in up there, and, like I said, his building, you can see, pulls it far away from the cross street people.
Yeah.
And the trees are cut, it's bounded, we're not going an inch past where we were already approved to go, so.
Yeah, I think it's a great location for the use, and it'll be great to get the property all cleaned up and functioning as a viable business in town.
Yeah, so you guys are okay with us working with Mark to figure out the path and then getting started on it?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right,
Good.
perfect, thank you. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thanks for
Thank you,
coming in
guys.
and asking.
All right, have a good night.
You too.
I'll give you a
Sorry, I
call.
was late.
Thanks.
Jamie told me I had like 45 minutes, and then all of a sudden, everybody canceled. He's like, I'm going in now. I was like, hey, thanks again, guys. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
So next item on the agenda is discussion regarding sign bylaw and commercial zoning districts. I know this kind of was at our last meeting. I would like to continue it just because Nora, she was under the weather and she said she would really like to be a part of the discussion.
Sure.
Did you have anything in writing for us to look
Oh,
at?
no, I
Okay.
said I'd get you the maps and we could look
Yeah.
at kind of just the general areas.
Well, why don't we have a brief discussion on it,
Okay.
just so if nothing else, it'll give us
Go.
2 weeks to think about it.
Okay. Where did I see that?
It's the last page of the first packet, yeah. The zoning up.
So what we sort of talked about, the two options were either prohibit it from certain spots or overlay it to be only allowed in a certain spot or spots.
Yeah, overlay it to, so you have like sign, like commercial district A and B in the sign bylaw. Break down the commercial district into two, or, you know, the other thing would be to create a different zone, you know, commercial A and B, or 1 and 2. And, but again, if you look at this, you do have some scattered little red, either dots or little strips of properties, that are, you know, within residential or adjacent to residential properties. So, that's what we had talked about, you know, the areas to look at prohibiting or making it stricter or restricting the types of signs that would be allowed in those particular areas, as opposed to maybe the end of Main Street or Route 44, which are your main commercial districts where, you know, we already modified the sign bylaw once, you know, and for those particular areas, you may go, yeah, that's fine. So what we did there is still good, adequate, so.
Yeah, so Jack and John, I think that's something we think about over the next 2 weeks is, do we want to, like Mark said, maybe up on Main Street where the hospital property is, take the business properties that are already zoned and existing there and allow the electronic message board signs there, and where the applicant just came in, that property on 44, allow that as a district.
Right.
We allow them. And then take the rest of the business-owned properties and you somehow write the bylaws so that they're not allowed there, because they're more commingled with residential properties.
Yeah.
You mentioned, are you referencing the real estate place right at 44 and 18, I mean, 17 and
79.
18 and 79, it has a reader board up running today.
I didn't reference it just now,
No, oh, sorry,
as one of the districts that I was saying to allow it. It's up for discussion because you do have a couple of businesses in that area. That's one of the master plans, quote unquote, village type things that
right,
they recommend that we create, looser parking requirements and, you know, try to promote little business districts there over where, Stars Market is, where Vaughn Street and
Right.
105
right,
meet. That again, you could say those little business districts, you may want to allow them there. And so I think what needs to happen is we come back to the next meeting, really having looked at the zoning map and say, it makes sense in these 2 locations or 5 locations, but not in these other red locations. And that's what we're really looking at is red. To really put some parameters on how we craft the bylaw or an overlay, or to just update the zoning map to suit the purposes of this change.
Yeah, and then you also need to discuss, because it's been kind of mentioned, well, internally illuminated signs or the electronic message boards or the changeable copy ones. We need to kind of discuss about clarifying exactly which signs you want to either limit further or just say, yeah, not in this district because
Right.
it's small lots and it's near residences and stuff like that. So we would probably need to kind of discuss each and every little district, or even take a field trip or something like that to.
Yeah, it is worth probably everybody going through, because I know
I think
in each of these locations, a backlit or message board or electronic message board exist already.
Right.
So it's a matter of, do you want more and you leave that as one pre-existing, or
Right.
do you just allow more?
I mean, I think a field trip might be a good idea, especially for us new residents. Are we familiar with exactly what we're talking about?
Yep. Okay. All right, so I think that's a good start on that. So we'll continue that discussion for our June 22nd meeting. Hopefully we have a full board at that point, and, you know, everybody can maybe take a drive by some of those locations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next item on the agenda is to review the zoning board of appeals petitions. Kathy, you and I had spoke a little bit before the meeting. The Bud's Goods, 475 Kenneth Welch, they're just looking for a name change.
Correct.
And hours of operation. right?
Yes.
Right, 6 to 10.
22 Crooked Lane is residential. 156 County Street is the self-storage. And then 5 Harding is the one that, Mr. Palucci was just asking about. Is that continuation for the, automotive?
No, they actually want to come in and modify some of the conditions that the ZBA had put on that permit.
Do you guys want to make any comments to the zoning board of appeals on any of these applications in front of the ZBA?
Not me.
I don't think we need to comment on a name change and hours of operation at 475 Kenneth Welch. I don't think we want to comment on 22 Crooked Lane. NSA Property Holdings, which is the self-storage, it looks like they're expanding a little bit.
Yeah, add a few buildings, where they already have a paved parking area. I think I drove by earlier today and there's a bunch of campers, it looks like, in that middle portion.
Yeah, they have like
Yeah, they
vehicle
have-
storage.
Yeah.
Yeah, their buildings are kind of on,
Off to this,
right, yeah, the right side and to the left when you drive in, but there's a middle section, and I think that's where they want to put the buildings.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they're abutting any family homes there, right?
Yeah.
And the new ones are a little tight together, that's all it was that they were only 10 feet apart.
Yeah. We can look at that, and, because it'll come back to the planning board for
Yeah.
site plan review.
Right, exactly,
So,
yeah.
you know, you can discuss that, you know, why they laid things out the way they did at that meeting.
Yep.
So at this point, Ed, well, I mean, maybe that's worth a comment now, so they don't go too far down the road, but I would just want the building placement with those aisles to be safe for, if they're allowing vehicle traffic and pedestrian flow between them, just to make sure that it's safe and
Yeah.
suitable distances. If it is only 10 feet, that's kind of close for,
It's 10 feet, there's nowhere to get out, so if
Yeah.
someone can get a car down there, they'll have to try to back it out.
Drive
and
a
go way up.
BMW, or if you have one of your trucks down there, you've got to have a tough time coming the other way.
Right. I mean, is that something, like I say, I don't want to not comment, then it get through the ZBA and get
I
permitted,
mean,
then
you
we,
can comment to the, you know, that the board's concerned about the buildings being as close as they are. I did not have a chance to really review the site plan that they submitted in any great detail, so.
all right, so I'm going to make a motion to not comment on 475 Kenneth Welch, 22 Crooked Lane, or 5 Harding.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm going to make a motion just to make a brief comment on 156 County Street, that the zoning board of appeals, make sure that the aisle width between buildings is sufficient for vehicle and pedestrian flow.
Yeah, because
That's a motion.
Second.
I have
Second,
a motion and a second. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So if you could just send that comment along. Appreciate it.
yeah, because the other buildings are not, they clearly have at least 20 feet between all the other buildings, so.
Yeah, it's almost like if they're gonna leave them that close and there's a temptation to drive a vehicle, maybe they should have some bollards or something so you
Yeah.
can't get a vehicle in.
Yeah,
That it ensures only foot traffic and people using hand trucks to get in and out of the doors. Because can you really, I would imagine there's doors all around them.
Yeah, the same size
Yeah.
ones, yeah.
yeah, unless they're designed to be deep units. But,
Right.
Oh, yeah, I guess, yes, they were.
they could be, but we don't have like building design drawings, I believe, so. Because it's really filed for a special permit, so, for the use. Okay.
I did get a chance to review the
Both those.
minutes. Did everybody else get a chance to review the minutes?
Yes,
Any comments?
no,
Make a motion to approve the minutes for April 13th, 2023 as drafted.
second,
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Any correspondence, Mark?
No.
Next meeting, already been stated, but June 22nd at 7 PM here at the Lakeville Police Station. I believe there's no other business in front of the board tonight, so I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
second.
Second. Aye.
I'm sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, meeting's adjourned.